Barbara?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Bob. I think it's, very different functions. As with the last question, the DA looks at things for criminal conduct. A civilian oversight board would be looking at police misconduct and would be a systemic review of some kind of complaint and would have some mechanism for input to the chief. So, letters to the editor and complaints to the Board of Supervisors don't have that kind of mechanism for having direct input to over police misconduct issues. And, I think every community needs civilian oversight, and I think for it to be effective, it has to have that kind of mechanism, and it has to be independent from the police department and the Board of Supervisors.
Thank you. Sheriff Phil.
Well, I think I'd have, I tend to agree with everyone here so far. I mean, those are all good forms of expressing yourself and making points, but do they really provide oversight? I would agree with Bob and Barbara on the issue that I don't really think they provide that. Again, my standard is that while I can look at the concept of an auditor, and rather than a commission or a review board, I think still, I'm, especially in my position, I'm a constitutionally elected official, different than a police chief. So the public is pretty much my oversight, and not the Board of Supervisors. So I don't think that those are oversight forms, really.
Thank you. Christina?
The First Amendment is a beautiful thing, but it's not oversight.
All right. Chief Nielsen?
I would agree. I think citizens have a variety of venues in which to express themselves, make their views known, but I think if you're talking about actually affecting change, most of those methods are probably not particularly effective.
Thank you. The next question is for Sheriff Philp. Why can't we see the Martin Cotton video?
Well, in public forum, let me just suffice it to say is one thing I have learned in this job is never go against the recommendation of counsel for legal reasons. There are more interests and parties involved in the matter. It really may not even have to do with the content as it does other issues. So I get advice from counsel, and I don't think it'd be appropriate for me to go against counsel.
All right. Does anyone else want to comment on that question? All right. The next question is, oh, I'm sorry, Bob.
I was just going to make the comment, more and more departments are using videos, and the law is at least 10 years away from catching up about the extent to which they're public documents or not. Now, if a member of the public videotapes an incident that occurs in public, that can be in the public forum. But because the video camera is inside a patrol car and it's paid for and operated by the employing agency, it can become a personnel record. That's the way the law currently reads.
Thank you. Any other comments on that question? All right, the next question, we'll start with you, Christina. Do our local law enforcement agencies want an oversight committee?
I think they do. I think they should. I'm more optimistic now than at the beginning of this because of things that have been said. I've written some things down carefully that I'm going to remind them of later. So I think that it's a matter of education, and I hope that this forum has helped alleviate some of the concerns. I think that to just say we can't do it because of the Peace Officer Bill of Rights is really back at that first stage of this process, which is no way, we can't do it over my dead body.
Okay. Bob, do you want to comment on this question?
No, because I haven't spoken with them directly to ask them the question.
All right. Chief Nielsen?
I think that if oversight can help me get rid of the problem employees that I have in my organization, that I would welcome it. Again, my concern is that any group usurp my ability to manage my organization effectively, and that really is where I draw the line. I don't want my ability to manage my organization taken out of my hands.
All right. Barbara, do you want to comment?
I just want to say that I've been really pleasantly surprised. I don't know. I've just been pleased with what I've heard here tonight, and in that we're not hearing, no way, civilian oversight. I think we're hearing openness, and I think that's great. We're exactly what we're hearing openness to, I'm not sure, but I think whatever you end up establishing here, I think needs to be respectful of the need for a chief of police or a sheriff to run their department. So I think that, whatever agency you have needs to work with them to do quality control. So thank you.
All right. Sheriff Phil?
Well, I'm hoping that I've been pretty much straightforward in what my thoughts are on this, and I haven't said anything that you've written down that I'll regret later. But no, I think I'm pretty clear. I still feel that we are very good at doing the investigations, and it's my responsibility to decide on how to deal with the findings and what we do with that. I am, and I will admit that I'm not opposed to review of policies and procedures, and some of the auditing models I've looked at here are makes sense to me. But a commission or an independent board that investigates and makes a determination of what I should do with my employees, I would not be in favor of that.
Thank you. The next question, we'll start with Barbara. What would the officers' labor unions realistically accept, and what would they be likely to block with lawsuits and so forth?
I think that varies from county to county, city to city. I think that it has to do often with whether there have been serious issues in your community, serious issues of misconduct, whether it, I think it has to do with how much citizen push there is for oversight, and often there's some kind of a political negotiation with the police union. I know in San Francisco, when the OCC was started, the police union wanted a raise, and there was an agreement made that if they didn't fight the oversight, they would get their raise. So co-opting, buying out, I don't know, but I think there's often some kind of political negotiation in the mix, and the confidentiality needs to be respected, and there's usually an MOU and meet and confer, and it depends on the situation. So.
All right. Bob, could you comment on this question?
I think this is one of the reasons why the community would be well served by trying to find a way to work cooperatively. If a threat is perceived, they are going to exhibit behavior that anyone would when they perceive a threat. And what that would ultimately mean is expensive lawsuits that the taxpayers would have to pay one side of, and at the same time it would pretty much bring to a halt any hope for civilian oversight until the courts had their say, which could be 2 or 3 years down the road. I think it is possible to achieve civilian oversight cooperatively. And in fact, I'd probably argue that that's the most meaningful way. Because if you come in hostilely, even if you're able to force your will, ultimately they have to listen. If you've turned your audience off, what's the point of civilian oversight?
All right, Christina?
I would say two things. It depends on the type of model. Obviously, they shouldn't be so threatened with something that is a parallel investigation and not the disciplinary investigation of the chief or the sheriff. And the second thing is that it comes from the top. So if the sheriff or if the chief